Hello, hello. Hey, everybody joining the live stream. I need to unmute Jordan. There we go. Hey, Jordan. How are you?
Hello.
All right. Thanks,
Good.
everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. So we are live here on YouTube talking about automation and delegation. I just muted the computer that had the monitor live stream up here. So I thought the way that we could do this for anybody watching, I think we're live on YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn and Twitch. So lots of different places for this to be consumed. I'm really excited about it. And I thought, as I make a small adjustment here to my view, slide it over a little bit. There we go. I thought that we could first talk a little bit about automation and delegation, and then if there are any questions from the audience, we can bring them up. So if you are watching, no matter what platform, feel free to ask questions there. If you are on YouTube or Twitch, we'll be able to put them on the actual screen. And if you are watching on YouTube, I also have super chats and super stickers enabled. So if you want to make my lights blink, you can go ahead and do that. I'll switch over to this view if my lights start blinking. But welcome, Jordan. I'm really excited to be doing this with you today because I talk a lot about delegation from I'm a solopreneur guy. But I don't know anything about the logistics of like actually building a company where you delegate. So I know that like both of our audiences are here, but I'll throw it to you first. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you help people delegate?
So I started Boss Assistants recently, and we are trying to make business owners' lives easier. So there are we work with some solopreneurs and small businesses. Like doing everything yourself at the beginning. That's usually how people start out, but it's so overwhelming, and there's so much to do, and there's so many different areas of the business. So we are trying to make things easy by coming in and having skilled people knowing what they're doing, coming in and helping take a bunch of stuff off your plate so you can actually move the business forward. You can make more sales and focus on things that are going to make the money and not necessarily tie down your time with doing the monotonous or the administrative tasks that no one really likes doing.
Nice. Nice, very nice. I let's see. Um John Casper. John, thanks for being here, man. Does that mean you hear an echo or you echo what's being said? There should not be an echo on my end, but let me see.
I hope there's not a mine.
This is like the perils of live streaming is what it is. So I'm going to check my audio source here. It probably is on my end, so I'm going to change my audio source. And hopefully there is no echo anymore. I guess I could actually check the stream to make sure. So I'll mute myself. Jordan, I'm seeing that maybe your mic has an echo on it. Can you try talking and maybe we can figure it out?
Yeah. So, is there an echo here? If I mute myself?
I'm not. I think it's only when. So, it's only when you talk. So I'm gonna guess that it is your audio coming through my computer. So I changed the input source. If someone wants to let us know. I'm pretty sure it went away. It was my bad. I'm a professional live streamer, so of course it was my fault. Awesome. So that's amazing. Now I did get distracted slightly by the comments here, but so over at Boss Assistants, you help delegate, automate. No echo. That worked. Thank you, Samuel JH3. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for being on the live stream.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, that's my bad. I always forget. This is how the music comes through I have the computer input, but since your
Mm.
mic is coming through my computer, it's you're saying it and then it's going to my computer and people are hearing it twice. So that's got to
Oh,
add that to
interesting.
my live stream with guest checklist is what I need to do.
Mhm.
Um, awesome. So sorry about that. Over at Boss Assistance, you help take things off people's plates, right?
Yeah, we're aiming to make it, lessen the stress as much as possible.
Awesome. And I guess how do you hear a bunch of different implementations for hiring a VA, right? I have a VA from the Philippines. Generally, they are really good for um I won't say like low level tasks, but they're good for like at least at the price range I'm paying, I should say. Generally good for the inputs are very clear and the output is also very clear, right? It's not like
Mhm.
work on this spreadsheet and then send it to me, right? It's like take this thing that I'm giving to you. When you're done with it, it should look like this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So I feel that's on the business owner to be very clear with their expectations, what the output should be, what they're expecting from you, and also it helps if you have an SOP or if you have some kind of process in place that you can send to them or like a video, say, hey, this is how I do it, and then they're really good at replicating things, like especially if you have those systems and processes in place and you can send it to them and then they're like, oh good, like I just follow this step and do this, and yeah, it works out really well if you do it that way.
nice. Yeah, and the SOP part's really important, right? The way I manage things with my VA is I record myself doing it first, right? And I
Hmm.
say, hey, here's what I'd like you to do. Please transcribe this video, write out the steps, put it into our master SOP Google document. Um,
Hmm.
and then show it to me so I can confirm that you understood. Now, we've been working together long enough that she has understood everything I've ever sent her, so I don't review that before. I just if she has questions, she knows that she can ask.
Hmm.
But like having those SOPs are important. Um, now when we get to like to your level, right? And so you're doing gosh, the word is escaping me and I've lost the tab for your website. But you don't say virtual assistant, right?
Yeah, so BOSS actually stands for Business Operations Support Specialist. So I think we're a little more than a virtual assistant. We don't really like that term because when it comes up, people think, oh, cheap. Like,
Right.
but
Right.
we're my thing was I wanted to focus on having skilled people that know what to do. So you're not telling them, you're not building the process for them. They can do it for you. And they, you say this is what we need to do, and then they can just start going from there. That's kind of what I wanted my business to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense, right? Because that term does have baggage, and I brought up your website because I love that you just straight up have like trusted by North American businesses on there, um, because I think it's true. Like people hear anything like that, virtual assistant or something, and they immediately think like this is offshored um, relative to North America, I guess.
Yeah.
But you focus. First of all, you're like a fully Canadian team. I feel like I should know this. We've talked about this.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to focus on the Canadian economy and, give those opportunities to Canadians.
Yeah, love that. But then you'll work with brands anywhere, right? Like Keller Williams, I see on your website. They're an American company, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
we have quite a few actually in the US. So, yeah, basically all North America.
Nice, nice. I love that. And again, so we're looking at kind of like upmarket, and we'll get to like the figuring out what to delegate. I want to set the stage here though, right? Because there's like
Yeah. Yeah.
VA, then there's like operation assistants, right? And then there's the gosh, the like virtual executive assistant or whatever, right? Like the
Yeah.
yeah, so or like the online what's that other term?
Yeah, there's also another term being thrown around on the internet. It's called an online business manager or an
Oh,
OBM.
OBM. Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah,
it.
so
Yeah.
they're doing more of the systems, the processes. They're a little bit more high level, even than like an executive assistant, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, so they're almost coming on as like a um an assistant to business manager or whatever, assistant to the manager, right?
Yeah. I think the term like CAO should be a thing, like Chief of Administrative Officer,
Yeah,
like
right.
CEOs, but like a CAO.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Though I will say CAO is also a cigar brand. Um, and then there's also, so I just got off an interview with a woman named Brooke Janicek, who's a fractional CMO, right? And so this is like another level of not necessarily delegation, but of like bringing on this kind of I don't even want to say part time. It's like help that's not a dedicated full time employee, right? Like somewhere in between contractor and full time employee. So there's like several levels to this, but the fractional leadership, that's um like pretty high level strategic kind of, you're filling a C suite without paying for a C suite style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's amazing. Like it's such a great idea. You get the support where you need it when you need it. Like
Yeah.
you don't there's no longer the need to have full-time people. I feel like it's the new generation of, having your business support.
Right.
And I think it's amazing. Like I'm totally behind it.
Yeah. Same. I think it's super cool, right? I mean, I've been uh self-employed or freelancing since I was like 14, right?
Mm,
And like I've worked for a couple of companies here and there, but I just love the freedom that being a solo entrepreneur offers me, and I love that our world, like the economy, the world is like kind of moving more in that direction now, right? There's remote work. Um, there's like more of these positions where people have that sort of freedom. Um, Now, in the United States, it raises other questions about like healthcare, but um, for the most part, we're getting more flexibility to live the build the kind of lives that we want.
yeah, totally. Like the freedom, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
I was reading a study where they said that people would take like a $10,000 pay cut just to work from home and have the flexibility and the freedom.
Wow.
Maybe it
That's
was
amazing.
10,000 or even 5,000, but it was like they were willing to take that pay cut. And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it makes sense.
amazing. Yeah. Um uh so with that in mind, right?
Sorry, that's my VP of snacks.
My VP of printing color pages was in here earlier. So
Oh, nice. Yeah.
it's school's out for the summer, and kids are just hanging out now. It's fine.
Yeah.
Um I feel like that do you remember the clip from a few years ago? This guy was doing like a global news hit piece, like was on air, and his kid like came in. Do you remember
Oh
this
gosh.
clip?
No, I
Oh
didn't
my
I
gosh,
didn't see that, but I'm sure it was
it's so
hilarious.
funny. Like total meme now. Anyway, so I love this. The problem I think with a lot of people who start their own businesses though is that they don't get that freedom immediately, right? Because they try to do everything themselves. They're trying to bootstrap. They're trying not to spend a lot of money. Maybe they don't understand the processes that they need to put in place.
Hmm.
And so the I think if you really want like true freedom, you do need to automate and delegate. And so um we focus a lot like heavy on the delegation part. So I'll just do real quick my part for automation. It's essentially getting robots to do things so you don't have to do them, right? And it's usually connecting apps. I have a small framework for um what you could automate. You want to ask yourself four questions like, do I actually have to do it? Um, does a person have to do it? And based on those questions, you could say, oh, actually, I don't need to manually add my podcast guests to Trello, right? When they sign up for a time, when they book a time, I can have Zapier or Make send that information over. I don't need to manually send my clients an invoice after they sign the contract. I can have Zapier or Make send that invoice um, the contract is signed. And so knowing and understanding those things will help you take just a ton of stuff off your plate. Of course, the reason we're doing this jointly is because some things robots can't do, right? A robot
Mhm.
can't publish my podcast. My VA has to do that. So, um, what when I guess if someone comes to you and they're like, "How do I figure out what I can delegate to either a VA or, um, a business assistant?" Uh, what do you tell them?
I usually start with what is the things that are falling to the wayside that are like the lowest priority. They're lowest priority to you because you either don't like doing it, you don't feel comfortable doing it, you don't feel like you have enough skills for it. So you just kind of push it aside and it gets left there, but it still needs to get done. So that's usually what we start with first. Like, for example, we just had a business owner. He's like, I haven't been sending the invoices to my clients. I'm like, okay, you're not getting paid. Like, we need to send these out right away, or we need to, get going with collecting the payments. So that that was like a top priority when we first came in. A lot of business owners are looking at social media because a lot of people can't figure it out, or they don't like creating the content. They don't like, going on social media and engaging, all that kind of stuff. So we can do that as well. That's a whole nother like, I guess, process. That's kind of it can help with leads, and it can help build your brand. So just having that working in the background is good too. But yeah, like, if you don't like doing something, then definitely get it off your plate as soon as possible.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And this I just started reading. Oh, this was not really what I wanted at all. I just started reading The Freedom Compass after a friend told me about it.
Mm.
And this was very similar to the framework I came up with. So now I'm gonna switch views here. Let me see if I can bring Jordan in here. Um, I know I can. My friend Kat Mulvihill usually helps me with all this stuff. Like my muscle memory is just not. Um, yeah, there we go. So can I just drag this here? We now, but
Now tell me.
now you're very big. Yeah,
The
there
star
we
of the
go.
show.
Boom. This is see if I was a smarter man, I would have done all of this sooner, right? So now, yay, this looks pretty good actually.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you, Ecam. Shout out to Ecam Live for being amazing. So the Freedom Compass is something that Michael Hyatt talks about in his book that really resonates with me because this is like the same thing I've been telling my clients for a while. Like you have your desire zone, the disinterest zone, the drudgery zone, and the distraction zone. But then you think about what you're passionate about, what you're proficient about, what you're not passionate about, and what you're not proficient in. Um,
Hmm.
and so like you want to stay in the desire zone where you're both passionate and proficient, right? But the things to move off your plate as quickly as possible is the stuff in the drudgery zone, right? Where you're not proficient and you're not passionate. So like, um, and the truth is like, there's gonna be somebody who your drudgery zone is their desire zone, right? I could never imagine not wanting to send invoices. It's usually like I'm a little bit too excited to send those. Um, like a little over eager to send those. So that's definitely not something I forget about. But like, sending the contract or like sending proposals, like that is the stuff that, like, once they say yes, great, right? We're good to go. Getting
Yeah.
them to yes is like I waffle over that so much. Was the wording right? Should I do this? If I send this like too fast, are they gonna say no or whatever? So like that's the stuff that I really struggle with.
Yeah, and also like following up too if they don't sign something. One of our clients as well, like if the contract doesn't get signed, we follow up and see what's going on. Like, did the link not work? Were there questions, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely having a human doing that for you is very beneficial. And then you don't have to worry, oh, did they sign it? Did I follow up? Like, it's just you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's like follow ups so crucial and so easy for people to forget, right? Like that's the
Hmm.
sort of stuff. And that's like again, that's not stuff that I would really have my VA do either, right? Because unless I'm like giving her the templates and telling her exactly when to follow up, like then I might as well just do it myself, right? I'm not going to email her and tell her to follow up with a client. I'm just going to follow up with the client. So like this is where
Mhm.
someone like in your position or someone that you work with would that's like the perfect it feels like the perfect task for them.
Yeah. Yeah. We do a lot of like email management and that kind of stuff. So we would be in the email seeing if they replied or not.
Right. Yeah. So let me ask you about this. Do people just like wholesale give you access to their email accounts?
Yeah. So we focus a lot on data security. So all my assistants have background checks to make sure there's no criminal activity, first of all.
Yeah.
That's like a top level thing. Then, next of all, we use a secure password manager. We also use a secure browser. We use antivirus protection, all that stuff. They all have training on data security and how, and, spam email procedures, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like we are trusted by so many companies, and once you have that level of trust, then giving access is okay. Like we haven't had
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. And that's super important, right? Establishing that trust because again like my VA was like, you could just give me access to your email and I'm like I'm not ready for that yet. But like slowly she's gotten access to pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Dropbox is next. I have hesitated giving her access to Dropbox because like my kids like birth certificates are in there and stuff like that, which is like stupid because I just show them to anybody, but like it felt like a big move, but also like paying for her to be a team member in my account versus
Mm,
paying for just me at the higher level. Like I'll still be paying the same amount of money come July, but like I'll have a lot more features
mhm.
and she'll just have access to my Dropbox account. So,
Yeah.
um, I think that's really important. Well, I think it's important to be able to trust
Yeah, no, it does
efficiently.
take
Yeah.
time to work up with that. So obviously, like you'll start out with smaller tasks and see how that goes. Make sure that everybody's comfortable, and then you slowly like work up to that. But yeah, if the trust isn't there, then you can't have that business relationship. Like we had a client that wasn't putting their trust in us, but also other contractors that were working with her, and just stuff wasn't able to get done because we didn't have access. We didn't have the full story. We didn't have her full expectations, what she wanted. So it wasn't a great time for anybody.
Yeah, because at some point it's like inhibiting, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't. It's like a manager who micromanages too. Like you can't do your job if someone's hovering over you the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did want to share this because I don't know about you, but like when I have coaching clients, like one of the first things we do is make a list of everything they do. Like often they don't know uh, even what they do or like they don't have it documented. I should say. Obviously, they know what they do because they have to do it, but most people don't time track in my calculation. So most people don't have like the explicit steps. They just know when they're working on something what they're doing. So, um, how do you generally advise on this? These are the four questions I ask. Like, make a list of everything you do. Ask, do I need to personally do it? Ask, does a person need to do it? And then if a person doesn't, see if there's an automation tool that could do it for you. Um, do people generally know what they want you to do when they come to you?
Most of the time, yeah. They
Okay.
usually come with a list that they've already created. Like they've written down stuff like I don't like doing this. This I need to
Ah,
take off my plate. Like a lot of them are quite yeah, they have that feeling of like this needs to get done, but it's not getting done. So yeah, definitely.
that's really interesting. I think there's probably this is like a main difference of ours, right? Because I that definitely happens for me too, where people are like, I'm spending too much time on my podcast. Like I'm a podcast automation coach specifically, so um, they're like I'm spending too much time on my podcast, but they just don't know what's possible, right? Like, can I automate this?
Mm,
Whereas, like, if they're doing a job that they don't want to do, they can reasonably assume another human being can do that job.
yeah.
Um, so I guess like by the time someone comes to you, like they're probably already educated on like why they need to hire a VA and what they can hire or what they can hire out for essentially, right?
Yeah, this is interesting. So people that usually come to us have tried a VA before and it didn't work out. So usually
Mm,
we're the next step. when they decided that this was too much for the first person, or like they've tried the cheaper version and they didn't have the time to handhold, I guess, or to like give every task, every step. They just want someone that knows what they're doing. So yeah, we're usually like a plan B, but they could have saved that time and money just if we were the plan A. But yeah, it's very, very interesting. A lot of conversations I've had with people, they're like, yeah, I've already tried a VA. It didn't go well. I canceled it after a couple months. And so, yeah, like they already know, they've gone through the steps of, I know what I wanted to delegate. I know what was supposed to happen, but it didn't.
That's super interesting, right? Because like you're solving almost like two pain points up, right? Like
Mhm.
they've tried, it hasn't worked, and you're right. Like I almost gave up on my VA a few months in because I asked her to find conferences I could speak at. But again, that's like not the right task for the VA at my level because she doesn't fully understand what I do. Um, she doesn't understand. I didn't give her very good instructions, right? But even if I did, if I'm like, yeah, find like WordPress conferences, but that was it at the time. Or now like find like conferences with podcasters, that's like a little tougher because like, is it just conferences with the word podcast in the name or the term pod in the name? She wouldn't have thought to like send me to like have me apply to craft and commerce or CEX or anything like that. So
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
I think that's like a
Yeah,
communication thing on both sides. Like they
yeah,
should be asking the questions to, confirm, is this what you want? And yeah.
yeah. And so I learned through the help of another person like to do the record thing, and really make it clear. You need the clear outcome. So I mean, next on my list is hiring like a proper assistant. I think I feel like I'm reaching that point. Um, I just had a podcast interview today with someone who had a framework where he broke down everything he was doing for his business into red, blue, and black. Where like red was like stuff that has to be done but is like not making him money or losing him money. Blue
Mhm.
is stuff that's making him money today, and black is future planning stuff that is going to make him money. And like he wasn't focusing nearly enough on the black. He was focusing too much on the red and the blue. And so
Mhm.
he hired a VA to um, take the red off of his plate,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that's really smart. So let's talk about communication skills for effective delegation, right? This is one of the things we're going to talk about. Um, if anybody has any questions as you're watching, feel free to drop them in the chat or wherever you happen to be watching. If it's on Twitter, I'm watching all of those places. But figuring out what you can delegate is really more on you, right? You need to make a list of everything that you do, and then you need to say, I personally don't need to do this, and maybe take it one step further and say like, I actively hate doing this, right? So I don't need
Mhm.
to do this and I hate doing it. Perfect candidate for delegation.
Yeah.
Um when it comes to communication, because this is not something you need to do. I'll talk about the building the automations in a minute, how to think through that, but when you're talking to another person, they're going to interpret things differently, right? You tell an automation or a computer to expect this input and I expect this output, and that's very clear to the computer, right? It's either they don't get what they're expected or something breaks. Um, but I can say like, hey, take like my last 10 blog posts and turn it into an ebook, right? And that's just like very nebulous, right? And what do I do? What's the cover? What's the format? So how do you properly communicate? When you're delegating.
Yeah. So one thing I kind of wanted to touch on is business owners don't like this part, but this is the follow up portion of, giving the construction criticism, or, like giving the feedback. Like, I feel like, business owners are a little bit shy of, giving their full, like feelings of how it's going. I'm the only one here.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Where'd you
still here. I
go?
focused.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I focused on you.
I was like, I
Um,
think you
no,
left.
I'm
Yeah,
still
no,
here.
they
Yeah.
they have trouble having that honest communication, just because they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, or maybe they don't know how to. describe exactly. So that's something that you need to focus on and build up your skills of giving the feedback. So say you wanted something done and it wasn't done the way that you were expecting, so you have to, for next time, build that relationship by being honest and just saying, it could have we could have done it like a little bit like this way, or but to even avoid that in the start, you want to be super, super clear on your outputs. So even starting with the end first. So thinking about what needs to happen. Say, we're sending invoices. So the end result is we need to get the client paid up and get their account up to date. So that's the end result. So you need to be clear with your assistant and say, this is what we're trying to achieve, and make sure that they're able to get that result for you, and have that metrics, so you're able to you know make sure that things are getting done the way that they're supposed to be, and also giving the feedback, like I said. It's not about hurting someone's feelings. Like, if your VA doesn't have thick enough skin for you to say, this wasn't exactly what I'm expecting, and they get upset over it, then maybe they're not the right one for you. It's just they have to be able to accept that and use it going forward, because everyone makes mistakes, and you have to realize that not everything's going to be perfect. um, but 80% is better than you doing it to 100% but then wasting so much time.
Yeah, and that's like you said, it's really important, right? I mean, like when I did web development work, like if people didn't like the website I gave them, like I couldn't like take it personally. I mean, unless they were like really mean about it, right? Like there's a way
Yeah.
to deliver feedback in a proper way without belittling someone, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like there's the
And that's a
compliment sandwich or
skill.
whatever.
That's a
Yeah.
skill you have to work on.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think this is really like you just like with an employee, right? Or what your client would say to you, like be direct and let them know um what you need and how you want it delivered, right? And there's probably so is there like a there must be like a train up period, right? Where it's like the assistant will come in and like learn how you do things, or is that not really something? They're just like, I'm gonna give you this task and you're gonna do it.
There is a very short learning curve, just because we need to know exactly what your business is, and what you're doing, and what you're trying to achieve, and basically like get a full background of your business. But a lot of the times, like I said, we don't have to be told exactly step by step for tasks. So a lot of times, within a week, we come in and they say, okay, I want this done. As long as we have access to the system, and if there is that little bit of training that needs to be done, that's okay. But a lot of times we just kind of get in there and start working and doing it.
Nice, that's awesome. So, what are some examples of some of the things that you're doing now? You don't have to like name clients or even specifics, but like what kind of tasks are you and your team performing for people?
So, a lot of things that we've been asked for recently are in the lead gen, social media, finding kind of PR, even opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
guesting on podcast opportunities.
Nice.
Just basically, people are trying to build their brand, and they're trying to get their names out there in an organic way where they can, kind of save money. So we're helping a lot on that. We even have one of our assistants doing cold calling right now. So
Wow.
um, that one's new to us, but since we are in Canada, and we speak the language, and we know, and we're able to get the full background of your company, what you do, then we're able to actually make calls out and on your behalf, and try and schedule an appointment.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So let me this might be like a hard-hitting question, but it's occurred to me, right? Because there are services that will get you booked on podcasts, right? I know because they all email
Mhm.
me asking to get their clients on my podcast.
Yeah.
Um so what would you say is the difference between someone like that and someone like Boss Assistants? Is it like um maybe that since well, I won't put words in your mouth. I'll just let you answer that question.
I'm not quite sure because I haven't actually looked into those kind of
Hmm.
services, but I know from our point of view, like what we can help with is like the tedious task of
Right.
finding those podcasts that align with what you do. Like, say you're an e-commerce marketer, we're not going to go to like a podcast like about working moms. Like if you're a
Right.
male, like it
Yeah.
has to make sense first of all. So like finding those podcasts, finding the contact name and the information, like that's tedious, right? So,
Yeah.
and you want to make sure that the podcast is actually running because there are a lot out there, but they haven't put out an episode since like 2018. So obviously that's not going to be an opportunity for you. So just like confirming that portion. So that's a whole thing. And then, if you're sending out emails, following up, all those kind of things. So they are tedious. But yeah, that's kind of what we've done for our clients in the past.
Yeah, that's really interesting, right? And I will say, like, I've got a few friends in that position who are doing podcast outreach, and they do a great job. Most of the podcast outreach I get is bad. It's just like
Mhm.
they have access to a database of all the podcasts that have ever existed, and then they're
Mhm.
pitching people. And like for me, it's like, oh, I'd love for this founder to come on your show and tell their story. I'm like, I don't tell founder stories. Like I don't. That's not. And I make it really clear on the want to be a guest page, right? Like I don't like that.
Mhm.
So, um, from one standpoint, it's like maybe these people have relationships with podcasters, and that's the service that you're paying for, right? But
Mhm.
on the other, it's like their whole business relies on getting people on podcasts, where
Yeah.
yours doesn't, right? So,
No, but
yeah.
we try our best. Like
Right.
we've had,
That's what I mean, right? Like you're
yeah.
not casting a wide net because your whole business relies on it. You're taking and I mean I'm sure like some people I know will disagree with this sentiment, but it feels like you're doing a little bit more due diligence, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. We're making sure that it's first of all making sense. Like you said, we're not going to be just blasting out like a ton of emails to random people. We focus on the quality, not the quantity. And also, like, we also craft the email, and we're making sure that we're making it clear that what value do we bring you, and not just talking about ourselves, like, oh, we have these
Yeah.
awards, we have this and that. Like, they don't really care. It's like, what are you giving to their viewers? What are they going to gain from that?
Yeah, love I could not have said that better myself.
Yeah.
Um and so I love this because now what I'm going to do, hopefully, is go over. I'm going to show an Airtable base where I have some automation set up to do
Nice.
podcast outreach. Um, so let's see. Yeah, this is great. This I make this publicly available somewhere, which is always the great CTA. It's somewhere you can find it. Um,
I'm going to have to get it.
yeah, yeah. Um, so this is. I mean, I haven't. So I'll do reached out, and hopefully, I'm hiding email addresses. Now I am. Great.
Mhm.
So these are all podcasts that I've reached out to recently about coming on their show. Um, and I have like ready to send, reached out, right? And then there's the automation piece in the background. When a record match is ready to send and a contact email is filled out, I have them send out an email that's like pretty personalized based on the fields in my Airtable base. This part was fun for me, right? Oh, and I have like one that's I want to do a podcast swap with you, and I want to do like I'm just pitching myself as a guest. Um, so there's like some variability here, and I built this, and it was a lot of fun. But the tedious part now is finding the contact information, right? So like this kind of is a good segue into how automation and delegation can be blended because I have this and I still have to do the legwork of finding the information, right? So maybe this is where my VA or someone from Jordan's company can take this, fill it out, right? I have a quick video on how to use it. I think it's pretty intuitive, but you know. Um, and then they can fill it out and then they can click ready to send. And now it's all happening. They don't have to send. I'm. They're not spending an hour actually sending the emails, right? Because I think you kind of price based on number of hours per week or whatever.
Yeah, that's our package.
So like, you know, I'm making their time more efficient,
Hmm.
and then they're saving me a ton of time by finding the contact information that I'm not very proficient at. And I mean, maybe you have access to certain tools that I've decided not to get access to, but maybe not, right? Like maybe you're uh, whatever helps you do your job, right? That's part of the benefit of paying for a service like yours.
Yeah,
Um,
the benefit of having contractors too is they have their own softwares and those kind
yeah,
of things. So having to pay for that.
yeah, exactly. Um, so let's see. Determine what to delegate and automate. Communication skills. Choosing the right tools for automation. This is something that again I'll kind of share my screen. Um, Jordan, if you want to share your screen at any point, I think we could probably make it happen. Um, but we can test that out live. That's the perils of live. Um, but I want to share this slide because this is some of my favorite automation tools, right? And so, um, Make, formerly Integromat, is a great tool. It's really affordable, like really affordable, um, and it helps you connect apps to one another. So I'll show this off in a minute. This is an alternative to Zapier, which is like 90% more expensive than Make, which is just like mind boggling to me. Like, I get why, I understand why, but like if you're gonna automate a lot, I think Make
Mm,
is the better thing for you, right? I think probably feel like you're an enterprise. Zapier is probably better, is my guess. Um,
mm,
Shortcuts, Siri shortcuts or Apple shortcuts or whatever. Um, the app on your phone, Google Assistant can also do this. Um, but this is on-device automations. I usually use this for sending data to one app or another, yelling at my phone and have and like having it do stuff. Right, that's like the voice assistant stuff. Airtable, I just showed you. This is where I store all of my data, automate processing and email. Notion, I don't know how much automation is built into Notion, but people certainly store data there. And Calendly or SavvyCal, like this is a really good way to book, organize, and communicate with people. And
hmm
I say with guests, right? Because I'm a podcaster, but like if you're doing client work, right? Let's say Jordan's team sends out a bunch of cold emails and says like, "I'd love to chat with you for 15 minutes. Here's a link to my Calendly," right? Now, when someone fills out that Calendly link, you can automatically send their information to your CRM, right? So like
hmm
you could send it to like Salesforce, or for me it's Airtable or ConvertKit, and I tag them as like potential lead, and then they get maybe added to the follow up sequence in ConvertKit, or I get a reminder via Airtable, hey, it's been a week since you spoke to this person, time to follow up, right? So,
hmm
and this is like now it's totally hands off for you. I tell Jordan or someone from Jordan's team, um, I want to reach 50 solopreneur parents who focus on coaching or whatever, right? Maybe that's like too specific. Some people don't make it clear that they're parents, but um, I want to reach like 50 solopreneur coaches. Send them my Calendly link, and then done. I never have to see that. They get booked on my calendar, and they get added to Airtable or my CRM. So this is where you can kind of blend both of those things, which I think is really cool.
hmm
Um, does your team work within automation tools, or are you automating anything on your side of the business?
Yeah, we actually use HubSpot for booking appointments because that's our CRM as well. So when they book, then it like automatically just keeps it in there. So that's even taking out one other step because we don't have to send it to the CRM; it's already in there. But yeah, we use Notion. What else? Like we use something called Streak for our outreach campaigns. So
Oh, nice.
it
That's like the
it goes in
Gmail, right?
Gmail, yeah.
Okay.
So you can actually send out 30 emails per day. I think that's for like the freemium version or the free version. I
Oh,
think you can
wow.
get more. But yeah, you basically just upload a spreadsheet and you have the template ready to go, and then it can just automate all the emails for you. It just sends them all out,
Oh,
and you
that's
can
awesome.
also automate a follow up.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
really cool. So that's like this is the perils of me automating something, right? Is that tool exists and I built my own in Airtable, which is fine. Like I live in Airtable, so like I like having all of my tools there. But like if I had done just like a tiny bit of research or talked to Jordan, um, I would have known that like Streak does this thing that I built bespokely, which I think is a word I just made up, um, in Airtable. Shout
Yeah.
out to Caesar or Cesar. I don't know. I'm gonna say Cesar. I hope that's right. Let me know if it is. Who's watching over on LinkedIn, getting familiar with Notion. Somebody made a pretty strong argument to me today about using Notion for a few things. So I've been Notion hesitant because I like Airtable, and Notion doesn't automate nearly as much as Airtable does. But there's some pretty neat stuff in Notion that's worth checking out.
Yeah, I think they're, a lot of these tools are the same. It's just the way that you use it. But we use Notion. We have all our client information, all our HR information, our SOPs, our blog editorial calendar, our social media calendar. Like pretty much everything is run on Notion. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? That's like, that's like Airtable for me. So like work where you're
Mhm.
comfortable with and what your requirements are. But
Yeah.
I don't think I've given Notion a fair shake. So I definitely want to do that. There's one more thing I want to show here. I keep showing the same automation, so I'm going to show a different one today. Um, and that is this one. So I have a form on my website called Gravity Forms. I have a forms builder on my website called Gravity Forms. And they have Make integration, which is incredible because usually people have like Zapier integration, but not Make
Yeah.
integration. Um,
Usually.
but what happens here is when someone fills out one of my Gravity Forms, it gets sent to what I call a router, right? And so this is for podcast guests. And if they have been invited, they get sent to one Airtable base, and if they are applying or pitching themselves, they get sent to a different Airtable base.
Mm.
And this is really cool for me because it helps me specifically invite people and not have to manage like where they are in Airtable. So if I move
Mm.
over to Airtable, I can show this really quick. Um, there is a list of my upcoming episodes, and this is where the invited people end up, right? They'll end up here, and then I can move their date and stuff like that. But they also get a Google Doc created for them.
Mm.
Whereas with guest applicants, I don't. I'm sorry, I'm showing people's email addresses. These are all people who have applied to my show, and they don't get the same. I will do a Kanban just really quick. So Julian was accepted, but when they apply, they don't get the Calendly link sent to them. They get put in here, and then I can move them, and they get an email based on if they're accepted or rejected. But then I also automatically generate a Calendly link that has all of their information filled in, so that they don't have to go through um, and fill out the form. They can just grab the time, which I think is pretty nifty. So
Mm.
um, this
Yeah,
is
that's
like,
awesome.
yeah, right. It's like, I mean, it was an interesting project, and since I'm like a podcast process person, it made sense for me to spend some time on it. But it also makes my life a lot easier, and it
Yeah.
makes my guests' lives a lot easier because I'm like asking them a lot of questions on the form, and I want it to be as easy for them as possible to sign up. So this also allows me to send like a pre-filled form, especially to big guests who might not want to go through, or maybe their assistant doesn't want to go through and fill out all of those questions. Um,
Hmm.
so I fill out as much as possible, as well as like the proposed topic, because here's a pet peeve of mine, my friends. Uh, when I get invited onto a podcast and then they tell me, uh, what do you want to talk about? Come up with 5 questions I can ask you. Like, no, that is not my job. That is your job as the host. My job is to answer the questions.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna keep an eye. We'll wrap up here in a few minutes, unless there are. Well, see, first of all, Cesar. I'm gonna say Cesar. I'm gonna commit to that. If I am saying your name correctly, let me know. Uh, oh my gosh, there's so many comments here that I missed from you.
Oh
Um,
no.
not all of them have shown up in the notifications. So
Yeah,
let's
technology.
see. Familiar with Notion. I'm glad you made it out of the hospital on time. I hope that was for like work and not needing to be there.
Oh no.
Any automations with ChatGPT? I'm not doing any automations with ChatGPT right now. I'm like ChatGPT hesitant for a lot of things. Jordan, I don't know if you're doing anything with ChatGPT.
No, not necessarily. There are some AI actually like automation tools that do like a certain thing. I know there's like an AI outreach tool. It's called triluna.ai or something like that, but it
Okay.
like automatically writes the outreach email for you and finds the people for you and does pretty much everything for you. But I don't use that. I just know of it. But yeah, we don't integrate chat GPT as much as other people do, I guess.
Yeah. That's like, I want to do it judiciously. I want to make sure I'm doing it right. Um, I want to be like Joe when I grow up. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Gonna check out Make. Great. How do you find those pods with about 75% of pods not making it past 7 episodes? That's a really great question.
Mm,
Jordan, I'll let you answer that one, right? So like what's your process for finding? I have a few resources, but it's not comprehensive.
hmm. For ones that like aren't current or aren't still going,
Yeah,
kind
so
of thing.
like how do you go about finding podcasts to reach out to? Is there like do you have like a specific process or like a few things that have worked well for you?
Well, like it's a mix of social media, finding you can like, type in podcast guest and, find those people, look at their profiles, and then usually they have a link to their podcast, or, go to where your podcast plays. So I guess there's like Apple, Spotify, all those kind of, that house the podcast and look in there, see what's current. And yeah, you want to make sure that it's making sense for what you want, right? So like the topics and stuff like that. But yeah, there's no real play. That's kind of what we do, but there's no real system.
Yeah, there's not like a silver bullet, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there could be, right? I know that there are some outlets that use something called Muckraker, I think, um, where it'll have like a list of podcasts and then like the type of podcast. But this is also why I get a lot of founder stories because my podcast did start that way.
Mm,
Um, and then I realized that like a million other podcasts were becoming that way as well, and so I pivoted, and Muckraker didn't get updated. So like
mm,
you want to because things are so fluid in the podcast space, you want to make sure that you're uh, keeping up to date. Um,
mm.
we have about 5 minutes. I have a call right after this because I mismanaged my own schedule today. Um, but you can have a Google Doc automatically created via a trigger. Cesar, yes, you can. It's super nifty. Let me see if I could show it really quick here in Make. I'll go to the automation I have. Um, so there's a trigger in Make for create document from template, and then if I go to my show notes template or my show notes folder, where are you? Show notes template. I give it this, and then these curly braces are placeholders. And so with Make, I send the name, the email, the website link, and everything that they filled out from their form, and Make knows to fill in these placeholders with the information from the form. So, yeah, super nifty and made me move from I think I was using like either I was using like Craft, my notes taking app, for show notes, and this made me move to Google Doc because it's so much more convenient. So um,
Mm.
we're gonna have to call it there. Jordan, if people want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, our website is bossassistants.com. And LinkedIn is where I hang out. So can follow me or connect.
Awesome, sounds great. And you can find me over here. Oh, casabona.org/automation workshop. I am running an automation workshop. If you're interested, it is a paid 3-day workshop, but I will teach you how to do everything I've talked about here. And I'm also on Twitter and LinkedIn, so find me over there as well. Jordan, this has been a lot of fun. Let's do it again sometime. Maybe we'll do like a proper webinar with slides.
Yeah.
When like we're both like I feel like we're both we how the sausage gets made, my friends. We picked like a date 3 weeks out or whatever, not realizing, or maybe I didn't, maybe you realized this, I didn't realize this, that was like the end of the school year and college graduation and summer starting, and it was just
Yeah.
craziness. And it feels like today is the day that people are getting back from that craziness, as evidenced by the fact that I've had like 5 calls today. So, but Jordan, this was great. Thanks so much. Thanks to everybody watching. And
Yeah.
until next time, get out there and build something.
Mhm.